friend charged me for couch surfing, then blocked me after I expressed my feelings. I thought we were close. Now I became confused and hurt. Is this how friendships end? I sent a text message to my friend Alex, male, in his 30s, informing him that I would be visiting New York City for a few days. I inquired if I could stay on his couch on Sunday night. I used to live there, we are artists, and this arrangement is quite common. I once struggled as a starving artist in New York City, but presently I hold a decent job out of state, earning $50,000 a year. I intended to do something nice for him, like taking him out for a meal or buying lunch. It was just a gesture of goodwill since I could afford it. We are both stand-up comedians, and it is quite common for us to stay on each other's couches and treat one another occasionally. I text him, "Can I crash on your couch on Sunday?" His response, "Sure, but you have to buy me dinner, and I'm not a cheap date." I assume he's joking and show my wife the text, expressing that it seems somewhat rude to make it conditional and to indicate it would be costly. My wife replies, "Oh yeah, he is definitely joking." Fine. A few days later, I text him to confirm. To my surprise, he will not be staying in his dilapidated apartment in Queens, but in a very nice apartment on the Upper West Side that our friend Clayton is renting. Clayton comes from wealthy parents. Clayton is currently out of town at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. Alex has a summer job, coaching basketball at a private school with teenagers, and his rundown apartment in Queens barely has any air conditioning or amenities. The nice apartment is conveniently located just down the street from his summer job. Since Alex and Clayton are close, Clayton allows Alex to stay in his upscale apartment for a month or two while he is away. I know Clayton, but I was closer to Alex. It didn't seem like a significant issue. However, now Alex wants me to buy him dinner in order to sleep on Clayton's couch, and Clayton is charging Alex nothing for the privilege. It feels strange that I am being asked to pay, but whatever. I never minded offering Alex dinner. It would have been preferable if it had felt like a gift rather than something transactional. Alex is broke, yet he also spends $5,000 a year traveling to perform comedy in London, Paris, and elsewhere in Europe. I meet with Alex, and we opt for takeout from a Chinese restaurant. He runs my card up to $30 for just his meal. I am quite frugal. I have experienced poverty throughout my life, and I expected to pay around half this amount for takeout. I felt annoyed by all of this. It did not seem polite or respectful. But whatever, he's my friend. I still need a place to sleep. The next day, I ask Alex, "Hey, since your Queen's apartment is empty, would it be okay for me to crash on the floor of your spare room for a few nights? I do not want to inconvenience you." I add, "I will buy you dinner again as a token of my appreciation." He agrees. It seems like a perfect opportunity to extend my stay in the city. I spend a few nights in his shabby Queen's apartment. It resembles a college dorm room. It is gross and in terrible condition. The shower is unsanitary. Whatever, it's not a big deal to me, just for reference. I am used to worse, but it is not even close to a 3-star Airbnb. His room appears as though it belongs in an episode of Hoarders, and the bathroom is covered in mold and grime. Then, on Wednesday evening, I text him, "Hey, I want to take you out for dinner," and I drop off his original keys, which he requested, after I made a cheap copy. I meet him on the Upper West Side at the same nice Chinese restaurant. He is running late, so I call him and say, "Hey, I'm here, can I place your order since it is takeout?" He insists, "No, I'll be right there." All right, fine. When he arrives, I feel excited to see him. He is one of my favorite people. I invited him to my wedding a year ago. I was not planning to order food myself because I am not particularly fond of Chinese cuisine, and I had already bought a cheap $5 sandwich from a deli just an hour earlier. Alex proceeds to charge $50 to my card. I exclaim, "What is going on, man? That is quite expensive." He responds, "Oh, this is for me, Steven, and Tyrese." I feel upset because he has obscured the truth. He was aware of what he was doing by omitting this information on the phone and did not mention his friends until I pressed him about it. Additionally, I question why I am now purchasing dinner for all of his friends. It feels like I am being taken advantage of. He replies, "We are doing a podcast and we need food." I state, "I am already at $80, man." "How much is Clayton charging you to stay at his apartment?" He responds, Nothing, but 80 is the cost of an Airbnb." Perhaps I am mistaken. I remain open to that possibility. I just feel that as fellow artists, I am in town to perform. Clayton is helping you out. I am more than happy to treat you all week, but please do not make me feel used. It simply feels very quid pro quo. Although I am frugal, I am also very generous towards my friends. However, I am also aggravated because now I am buying dinner for Tyrez, whom I had previously booked for shows, but he canceled without notice. Tyrez has had numerous attitude problems and has been rude to me on several occasions. I do not like Tyrez. Regardless, I attempt to rise above it, ultimately deciding to pay the $50 and buy dinner for Alex and all his friends. He leaves to go record the podcast at Clayton's apartment while I head back to Queens, feeling upset and hurt by how transactional our friendship has become. It feels as though he does not care at all. He never made an effort to see me during the week I was in town, apart from that first night for an hour or two. I depart New York City a few days later. I lock his apartment, but I forget to leave the $3 copy of the keys on his kitchen table because I am running late to catch my flight out of LaGuardia. I text Alex to say goodbye and thank him. Everything is amicable. Then, a month or two later, I text him and express that my feelings were hurt. I utilize "I feel" statements without resorting to criticism or "you did" statements. I communicate that I feel hurt. Things felt transactional. He responds, "Nia, you bought me dinner. You are being oversensitive." I reply, "I apologize. I'm open to being wrong. I just need to share my feelings." It hurt that everything felt conditional. He then asks, "And where are my keys?" I explain, "Honestly, I am sorry I forgot to leave them. I should have mailed them, but I procrastinated because I was upset about our interactions." Alex replies, "You know what, Joe? I am sorry. I promise you this will never happen again." I am taken aback. He changed his stance very quickly. I text, "I cannot tell if you are being sincere." Alex responds, "I promise you this will never happen again." I reply, "Okay, thank you, man." The next day, I mail the keys and include a letter. It is a nice letter. It could have been written on an index card in which I express my gratitude for him and the qualities I admire about him. As someone who values therapy and emotional health, this behavior is not atypical for me. I text him to inform him that I have mailed the keys, and he reacts positively. I feel relieved. My conflict with one of my favorite friends appears to be resolved. I text him 2 or 3 weeks later, "Hey, did you ever receive the keys I mailed?" Knowing there was a lovely letter included, and I was curious about his reaction. There is no response. I do not think much of it. He is likely busy. After about 8 weeks, I text him again, "Hey, did you ever get the keys I mailed?" Still, no response. I find this strange. He usually replies after 2 texts. We used to speak on the phone every Sunday for an hour about life, art, and various other topics. I call his phone, and it goes straight to voicemail. I find this odd and call again a few days later. It goes directly to voicemail again. After a week, it is still straight to voicemail, and none of my texts receive responses. I do some searching online and realize he has blocked me. The rapid transition to voicemail confirms my suspicion. I am in shock. This must be a mistake. I message him on Instagram, no response. I message him on Facebook, no response. I begin to worry. Is Alex okay? Did he go on a trip? Sometimes he travels. I worry for his health or anything else. I start to panic. I then reach out to our mutual friend Steven, the one I bought dinner for earlier. I ask, "Is Alex okay?" He is not responding to anything. This is bizarre. Steven replies, "Yeah, I just hung out with him the other day." I respond, "Okay, this is weird. I am very confused. We left things on a good note, but now I have the feeling he blocked me. Could you please ask him just to get some closure or confirmation? I feel very confused. We have been friends for years." Steven responds, "This is not my issue. I cannot be a liaison between you and Alex." I ask, "Can you at least confirm that Alex received the envelope I mailed him?" Steven replies, "Okay." The next day, nothing. I ask, "Steven, have you contacted Alex? Did he receive the envelope?" Steven replies, "Yes, he did receive it." I further inquire, "Can you tell me anything else? This is really hurtful and jarring." It is a very callous way to end a friendship. I mean, he came to my wedding. Steven counters, "Joe, this is unacceptable. You cannot contact me anymore." So, Reddit, what is going on here? I am willing to consider that I might be wrong. I acknowledge I may have made mistakes to some extent. But what the hell? This has been incredibly hurtful. Am I the one at fault? Should I be grieving this friendship? I feel disheartened. I have moved on, yet I am just trying to make sense of everything that has happened. Story 2. I struggled with deep-seated anger and trust issues for years, but a date 3 months ago made me rethink everything I am determined to change. I will begin with context read for better clarity. I have always been a composed individual. Even as a child, I was not emotional. I simply acted based on what made logical sense. My parents were supportive, but physical affection and emotional affirmations were not significant aspects of my upbringing. I was neither neglected nor abused. I just lacked that kind of nurturing. Growing up, I had no genuine social skills. I was not shy, but I did not know how to connect with others. I appeared calm on the outside, yet beneath the surface, I harbored a rebellious nature, a desire to break rules, test boundaries, and act out violently. I had no filter and limited understanding of morality beyond what I could evade. Eventually, I seemed to recognize subconsciously that this behavior was unsustainable. Around 6th grade, I developed an internal filter, unknowingly conditioning myself to be functional and appear normal, even though I continued to be quiet and reserved. By the time I completed middle school, I had transformed myself into someone who could blend in. Then high school came. I was completely devastated, and this is not just a typical high school loser story. False rumors circulated about me, serious accusations involving sexual harassment, rape, etc., intentionally disseminated as an act of revenge by individuals with whom I had a falling out in 10th grade. People I had trusted gradually turned against me. I became a social pariah, an obvious target for harassment and violence. I was bullied, cornered, and attacked. I engaged in 20 fights within 3 months. I was nearly stabbed. I lost my first girlfriend to health complications unrelated to these events, but it added to the burden. For 3 consecutive years, this cycle repeated: isolation, betrayal, and violence. My naive self would be lured out by girls from my school inviting me to hang out, only to find 12 boys waiting for me with sticks. No one intervened. No administration took action. Some individuals tried to defend me, but it was akin to an all-consuming virus. Even those who had been my closest friends eventually stood by and observed. It became a long, protracted lesson on just how expendable I was to those around me, and how programmable and pathetic people could be. Everyone was the same, a blank slate that, when placed in identical circumstances, would exhibit the same behaviors. And when it finally ended, I was no longer the same person. I despised humanity. I cried angry tears every night, and I felt a deep, seething rage, a persistent anger akin to a lighter under my heart for weeks on end. I wanted to physically harm the girl who instigated this. I devised plans, and I began training in Muay Thai and boxing. I honed my skills, but it simply was not sufficient. I know where I would be without my passions. Hint: not with you all, if you know what I mean. I coped through philosophy, constructing theories to find meaning in my suffering, refining my drawing and painting skills to exceptional levels, developing an incredibly quick jab, bench pressing 225 pounds, and expanding my knowledge. However, I still could not escape my anger. The fury returned, yet everything else, trust, vulnerability, attachment, was gone, replaced by paranoia, arrogance, hostility, and emotional detachment. Jokes no longer resonated, social interactions gradually diminished, and my empathy hit zero. I process emotions logically, but at this point, my primary feeling is anger intertwined with self-restraint. It keeps me sharp and prevents me from making foolish emotional decisions. But it also means I find it difficult to trust others, to believe in kindness, and to connect meaningfully, and I despise it. It restricts my social interactions, and deep down, I fear my own self. I recognize that the menacing version of me as a child warrants monitoring, because beneath my filter lies that same deep-seated rage, now amplified and sometimes justified. I often come perilously close to losing control. My filter feels like a heavy dining table pressing down on me. At times, I am at the edge, sensing that I could push the table off, but I always stop and allow it to fall back upon me, fearing what the consequences might be. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me, and while it further reinforced my hatred for people and distrust of women, I spent a month meticulously plotting my revenge against her. I won't delve into the specifics, but it would have been substantial revenge. I am aware of how to inflict pain. I am manipulative and scheming. I am genuinely sharing my life story here. I do not know. I am afraid of the unrestrained version of myself. Several years have passed since those times, yet I am a changed person, though not for the better. I feel nothing for anyone, neither for my parents nor my siblings, nor do petty concerns such as failed math exams or misplaced house keys faze me. Threats do not intimidate me. Insults do not wound me. Nothing you say can disturb me. I do not care if I stub my toe or if you consume my last serving of cheesecake. On the surface, this seems advantageous, but then you realize it also applies to relationships. You cannot love, you cannot be vulnerable, and you cannot melt into someone's embrace. My relationships are pragmatic and calculated. Everything I engage in feels like a tedious game of chess instead of simply living. I had it all, yet I was still unhappy, spending my evenings in a frenetic rage, filled with animosity toward those around me. Then, 3 months ago, I went on a date with a friend from high school, and when I tell you it was an incredibly enjoyable experience, it compelled me to reevaluate everything. It led me to question if, as Drake said, I had been down for so long that it looked like upward progress to me had I simply been closed off from experiencing emotions because I was never afforded the opportunity. We ended up becoming a couple. I was hesitant. I still did not trust women or people in general. I analyzed patterns and convinced myself it was not a sound idea, but I chose to give it a chance anyway. So now, she is my girlfriend. I anticipated that the hatred would dissipate, and briefly it did, until she began doing things, seemingly innocent, that triggered my alarms. I struggled to open up to her, accepting that she would not harm me, and believing she genuinely liked me for who I am. I am intelligent enough to understand it is not her fault, yet my anger began to be subconsciously directed toward her, not outwardly, but only internally, the self-control aspect. I contemplated breaking up with her, slowing things down, and various alternatives, only to realize that deep within, I do feel something for her. Being with her felt like waves crashing upon the shore, like cherry blossoms dancing in the breeze, like a late-night walk at 3 a.m. I felt a sense of peace, but only at times. I continued to mask my emotions and feign empathy for her concerns, pretending she was my entire universe while, in reality, I did not truly feel much for anything, not just her, so don't misinterpret this. And what initiated this entire reflection? My girlfriend recently referred to me as an emotional teaspoon. She claims I do not express myself sufficiently and do not provide her with much to work with emotionally. I recognize that she is right. However, this is not solely about her, it is about me. I do not want to spend the rest of my life consumed by this. I do not want to be so controlled that I have nothing left to feel. How can I ensure that I do not self-destruct into hatred during this journey and become the boyfriend she deserves? Story 3. Aita for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding after she tried to steal my fiancé. Okay, this might sound like something out of a soap opera, but I swear it is all true and I need advice. I, 28, female, have been best friends with Shelby, 29, female, for over 10 years. We met in college and immediately connected. We have been inseparable ever since, never going more than 3 days without spending time together. She is my sister soulmate. We have been through so much together. Boyfriends, breakups, career changes, you name it. She has been my absolute best friend, and I thought the world of her. I'm getting married to Ethan, 29, male, this summer in July, and I am really excited, but here is where things get complicated. A few months ago, Shelby and I went out for drinks, and we started discussing relationships as we often do. I have always been open with Shelby about Ethan and how much I love him. He is honestly my other half. We have been dating for 4 years and are very solid, no issues. However, out of nowhere, Shelby began asking oddly personal questions about him, such as details about our intimate life, our future plans, how often we argue, and so forth. Initially, I thought it was just typical curiosity or girl talk, so I responded to her questions, believing it was no big deal. Then the situation became more uncomfortable. Shelby began to text me much more frequently about Ethan, inquiring about his plans, where he would be, what he was doing, and even specific questions like, does he like to do X on weekends? It was quite strange, but I brushed it off. The real shock came when I went on a weekend trip with Ethan to visit his family out of state. Upon our return, I discovered that Shelby had sent Ethan a very flirtatious text. He showed it to me, clearly uncomfortable but unsure how to deal with it. She commented on how handsome he looked in a recent photo I had posted and mentioned that she had been thinking about him lately. Ethan told me he immediately ignored it, but it still did not sit right with me. I decided to confront her about it. When I questioned her about the text, she became very defensive and claimed it was just a joke and that she was not trying anything inappropriate. She insisted she was merely complimenting him and maintained that she had no malicious intentions. At that moment, I chose to believe her, but I felt uneasy. This behavior had never occurred before. She had never shown interest in Ethan over the years, and I was unaware that he was her type. So I dismissed it. A few weeks later, Shelby invited me to a casual gathering at her house with several friends. I arrived, bringing Ethan along as well. We were all taking shots, enjoying music, and playing party games. After a few hours, I noticed Ethan re-entering the house looking uneasy. He told me he had been smoking outside when he ran into Shelby and ended up having an awkward conversation. He mentioned that Shelby had been very touchy with him, asking personal questions and commenting on how strong he looked in a photo he had posted on Instagram. He said he felt uncomfortable, but did not want to speak up in that moment for fear of hurting my feelings or making the atmosphere tense. Touching. At that point, I was extremely angry, so I confronted Shelby the following morning. After hours of crying and numerous lies, she eventually admitted that she had developed small feelings for Ethan, but claimed she had never intended to act on them. She tried to gaslight me, stating that these were intrusive thoughts she could not control. She apologized and explained that she was going through some emotional turmoil and was not thinking clearly. She assured me that she loved me like a sister and would never intentionally hurt me. I was devastated. This was not a small mistake. It was a betrayal of the highest order. My best friend, someone I trusted deeply, nearly like family, was harboring feelings for my fiancé and had acted on them, whether she realized it or not, all this time. Had she been plotting against me for years? Did she think she could steal my man? How had I not seen her as deceitful? Shelby had always been boy crazy, but I never imagined she would ever pursue something with Ethan. We are supposed to be each other's number one best friends. How could she think to do this to me? I told her I needed space. She pleaded with me not to end our friendship over something she deemed small. However, I could not shake the feeling of total betrayal. I have always supported her through her struggles, but now I am left questioning whether she ever respected our friendship in the first place. I do not have many close friends, so I valued this friendship deeply. I was naive enough to forgive her. We still communicate awkwardly, but it is evident that we are not as close. I do not understand why I am still kind enough to hold on. But here is the kicker. She is now getting married to someone else, someone she has been dating on and off for years, and her wedding is in 8 months. She texted me a few weeks ago asking me to be her maid of honor. I was stunned. After everything that has happened, she still expects me to stand by her on such a monumental day in her life, as if nothing occurred. Just forget it, right? I told her I could not do it. I finally said that I could not support someone who attempted to sabotage my relationship. She called me sensitive and a bad friend, claiming I was overreacting and that she would never intentionally hurt me. Now she is telling our mutual college friends that I am being selfish, and naturally, some of them are siding with her, suggesting that I should forgive her and move on for the sake of our long friendship, because friends like these are not easy to come by. But I just cannot. I have never felt so disrespected in my life. Still, I am conflicted. No one cheated, so am I really overreacting? Am I the antagonist for refusing to participate in her wedding and ending the friendship after everything that happened over what seemed so small and careless?